All right, welcome everybody. This is the interview you all have been waiting for. Holly Fogel here with Mark McMinn. I'm so excited. I know you've been emailing me and asking me, when is this interview? When is this interview? And because of his strategies, after he's had his open houses, he's been that busy. So we're going to go ahead and get right down to it so you can understand what is the mindset behind the machine that is creating unbelievable momentum in his career. So Mark, welcome, and thank you so much for being able to do this. I so appreciate it, and I know you're very busy. So let's go ahead and just get started. You started in real estate career. Tell me when, tell me where you are, and tell me why real estate.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for being a coach in my life because Holly has played a very, very monumental position in my career and my development. So first, thank you.
Thank you.
And she's not paying me to say that. But for me, I have spent the past 15 years working in the nonprofit religious space. And if you look through McMinn history, it's like being a male, McMinn is synonymous with being in some realm of religious nonprofit. And so I grew up in that, and I loved it, still have a deep fondness for it. But what was unique for me, unlike some other people in my family, is I never had a calling towards that. I just loved it and found myself growing in leadership in that space. And about 2 years ago, interacted with a curriculum called StrengthsFinder. And Strengths, it's a Gallup product. Gallup, they're the ones who do all of the polling around election time and all of that stuff. And this curriculum, what it helps you do is say, when people decide to follow Holly or people decide to follow Mark, what is it about us that endears them to you, to me? And it really was. I mean, dramatically empowering and revealing, because when we look at things like DISC, things like Myers-Briggs, it puts us all in 10, 20, 30 different types of buckets. Whereas Strengths is about, there's 5 million different options, how it's all going to shake out. And so it gets to a very deep level into how you're wired and how you are, how you're strong, what you bring to the table. And it was so interesting. In the career path that I was on, things that were thought of often were things like empathy, things like someone who is very shepherding and who is very hand around the shoulder, very people-oriented, long-term relationship type thing. And what was so interesting for me is when I took Strengths, my number one was competition. I've always been the sports guy. I played college sports, and I love numbers. I love winning. Like that is deep within me. My number two was futuristic, meaning I'm constantly thinking about tomorrow. Where are things going? Where are they flowing? And how can I get there sooner? My number three was ideation, idea factory. I'm the guy, you want to chat about something, I'll have 15 ideas in 20 minutes.
So excited.
Yeah, and so my number four was strategic, and very self-explanatory. Strategy is a deep part of who I am. I'm a deep thinker before we want to jump in and make a mess. And then number five was achiever. Give me my checklist and let me go and achieve things. Let me go and make things happen. Let me get movement in the room. And so what was interesting when I was honest with myself, incredibly, when I was honest with myself, if you look at it, of those five, only one of those had to do with people. Only one of them. And it was competition. And again, when you think about my previous career, the mold was empathy, was developer. And the reality for me was those were actually some of my very least strengths, things that I had to pull deep down within me to bring them to the surface.
Wow.
And that was a really hard moment, just to be honest, because I think for the first time, I had a realization of this is true of me, because I would see it. I would read these definitions and hear these descriptions of me that I didn't want to acknowledge, but it was true. And so this caused me to look back in college. In college, the summer in between my freshman and sophomore year, I was one of the college kids going door to door selling Cutco knives. I'm slinging knives, right? I'm slinging knives. I made enough money in a summer to buy a house with cash. And we're talking 45 grand. This is back when everything was super depressed, and so I bought this little 3-2 ranch brick cute thing in Anderson, South Carolina as a senior, saved that money, bought it as a senior, rented it out to my roommates, and they're paying way more than my mortgage. I'm living there for free. It was just an awesome little scenario. But that moment of slinging Cutco knives should have been like a red alarm in my head, like, hey, man, take notice. But I just didn't have the wisdom, nor the desire to acknowledge that at the moment. So going back to strengths in this moment, this breakthrough moment in my life, that was the beginning of me wrestling with who am I really? And am I going to own that? Not only intellectually, but really in my spirit and my heart and my soul. I read another book called Good to Great. I'm sure you've read it. And the entire premise of the book is often in life, the enemy of greatness is not poorness, lack of performance. It's not the things you immediately think of. It's actually being good, because that causes us to settle for what we have. And frankly, I was good. I mean, I was working for, in my space, one of the largest nonprofits in the nation. I was a senior leader hired at the time at 29. It was good, but it wasn't me at my greatest. It wasn't me at my best. And so I made a risk that most wouldn't, and chose to step out of that and take what most saw as a few steps down so that I could take steps up that I never could have gotten to otherwise. And so why real estate? I've always loved this space. I've dabbled in it a lot from the other side of the transaction, the buyer side. I've owned some rental spaces and done all of that, and always loved it. I had the age-old moniker of I'm the guy who's watching HGTV and House Hunters and blah, blah, blah. Enjoyed all of that. But what I appreciated about this space is when it comes to sales and our networks that we all have, it tended to be give me the largest pool of people that I had a relationship with who would have made a transaction. Like if I would have gone into pharmaceuticals, well, I don't know people. And it didn't give me that advantage.
Never even thought about it like that.
Really? I mean, for me, it was the most obvious space.
Strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ideation and all of that, it just all begins to pull together. And so it made a lot of sense. And then we'll go back. This speaks into the brokerage that I work with, Remax Regency, and Lisa Macy and Jen Baxter. So Lisa was a member at my dad's church. My dad was a pastor. And Lisa and my dad and her husband and their family, our families are very close. Lisa has always held a very honored position in my life. I could get into a myriad of stories, but she's a very cherished person to me, someone I have high trust for. And so when I got into this, I just said, hey, Lisa, I'm really considering a change. I would love for you to speak into this. And she was immensely gracious, very honest, spoke over me what I already knew, like, Mark, this really is who you are. And so I began working here with Remax and with Lisa and Jen, and it's been phenomenal.
And then you started when?
Started in June of last year.
Okay. So
so very, very new. Yeah, very new to this space, still learning, trying to learn every day. I am a constant consumer of information and learning, constantly trying to better myself so I can better those around me. And I think for me, and frankly, this might be the most important thing I could ever say to someone. In 2011, I planted a church in Charleston, South Carolina. I was the hotshot kid who thought I was going to be, if I'm just really honest and kind of self-deprecating at an honest level, thought I was going to be a rock star, and moved to Charleston, planted this church, and it flopped. I mean, it flopped. And what shifted in my spirit was one of the things that success went from being optional and hopeful to an ethical decision that I owe it to my family to be successful. Because what that season did, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't have the wisdom to see it. It put massive pressure on the most important person in my life. It was my wife. It put massive pressure on her financially, emotionally, spiritually, just across the board. And that view of success shifted in me. That market, I'm not going to hope I'm going to be successful anymore. From now on, it is an ethical, right or wrong decision. I owe it to my family to be successful. I'm telling you, when I get around people and I want to consider partnering with them, that's one of the seminal things that I want to sift through is, how do you see success? Are you hopeful, or is it I must have this? because I owe it to people around me.
Well, and I used to say that it's, people are successful because they intend to be, but
Mm-hmm.
I almost like what you're saying better. It's that ethical decision. It's what I owe it to people.
100%.
And
100%.
there's a shift just in that. I mean,
it is
intending
massively.
to be is great, but that takes it to a whole different level.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's amazing.
Because for me, in this space, when we talk about hopes and dreams, there are real things for me that are in the medium. Like I want to, within a very short 3-year period, to buy my next house with cash and set my family up in a very comfortable position where financially we don't exist with the normal hardships that people do in the 9 to 5. I want to be able to own a bunch of investment properties and that kind of stuff so that long term, my family is in a very good position where if catastrophic things or health comes into play, all of that, we are not living with the 9 to 5 burden that the vast majority of America exists with. And so for me, there are so many things that come down to ethics in this conversation of I owe it to people, not only myself, because I do owe it to myself. I do owe it to myself to wake up and know that I am giving my very best every single day, but I owe it to my family. I do. I owe it to my son, my daughter, my wife. And so that was a really big shift that happened in me, which really led to part of our conversation we're going to have about why open houses and the strategy behind all of this. But that is the foundation of all of it. And I think for a lot of agents, we look for silver bullets without addressing the foundation. And that for me was the foundation.
Yeah, and I think even when we talk about momentum and other programs that are out there, without the true why recognized and the foundation to build upon and those passion links, it's hard to push through. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of challenges in this industry.
100%.
So when you're so grounded in what you do and I'm going to make this work and I love this and I'm passionate about it and I want to give my best and do my best, the sky's the limit. And that's what you're proving is the sky's the limit if you're willing to put forth. You can't bypass the work.
That's right.
And we'll talk about bypass.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and that's what I love. That's what I was so excited. When I first saw that post that he 120 people at my open house today, that's what really inspired me. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to find out more. So I love that you've picked this industry because I feel like the foundation and what you want to do, that's what I love about real estate. This career provides you with whatever it is you want.
That's right.
And there's no dream too big. There's no aspiration too big because you're in total control of going and getting it. And you're proving that. And that's what I love. So you've been here almost a year with RE/MAX Regency. Fantastic. I love that you already had a strong foundation with Lisa. She's fantastic. Got into real estate. How did it go your first couple of months? And how did you start to uncover, how am I going to make it?
Great question. Because I will listen to other people who are on the podcasts, that we would address. And it's like, opening day, I hopped on and someone called my phone and I'm selling a house within 2 hours. And for me, it was like 2 months of nothing. I mean, just hard hustle, grind, taking online leads and calling them and following up 8 bazillion times and Facebooking and Instagram. I'm like hawking if you exist anywhere, I'm going to find you and I'm like, I'm coming for you. And it was hard. And it wasn't discouraging, but it was hard. It was breaking new ground. And it was continuing to be resolute in my spirit. No, this is going to work. Because again, failure is not an option. Adaption is an option, but failure is not an option. If we do fail in something, we fall forward, not backward. And so it was, for 2 months, it was just, it was learning. There was a lot of learning, a lot of adapting and continuing to grow and taking the advice of people who are more seasoned. And so for those first 2 months, it was really tough. First breakthrough was with a couple. It was an online lead. They were buying a house for their daughter. Really incredible story. She has special needs, outstanding young lady. And she was wanting to be in her own space. And her parents believed that was the best next step for her development. And that we searched for a while, looked at a lot of houses. And for me, the most powerful part of that and the most encouraging was I got to be part of her story. And I have since continued to remain I'm not like some giant sizable. I'm not like an uncle but we stay in contact. We're talking later tonight. And an incredible family. that gave me the belief that, Mark, not only can you do this, but this is really an extension of the passions that you had in your previous career. It's not a leaving of that. It's just a offshoot of that. My paycheck is coming from a different place now.
Right.
And so for the first 2 months, it was hard. It was breaking new ground. But as most people in this industry know, it tends to be a momentum thing. And one of the best pieces of advice I've received from my previous boss is he said, Mark, when you have momentum, a lot of people that will have momentum, and they will take it and they will let it run its course, and then they will take vacation. They will pull their foot off of the gas because they are tired, or because I can always get it back. And the unique thing with momentum, if you're a sports guy, gal, you get this. You will see momentum ebb and flow throughout a game. I mean, you go back to heartbreak for me, huge Atlanta fan, grew up here, and you go back to the Super Bowl with the Falcons. All the momentum in the world heading into halftime. And then all of a sudden that momentum begins to dissipate. And we see really what was the most exacerbated fall apart we've ever seen in NFL history. What I learned and what he said was, Mark, when you have momentum, throw gas on the fire. Like, put your foot on the gas pedal and push it for all it's worth, because you don't know how long you're going to have it. And also recognize how you got there in the first place. Don't just have this posture of, well, things are going good. Well, why? Well, I don't know. Things are just good.
I'm lucky.
No, yeah, right. I'm just lucky. Or, people are just calling right now. Like, no, that's idiotic. Know why things are going well so that you can replicate them. There's systems behind all of this, and get your head and your heart wrapped around it so that you can go and replicate it. Because momentum moves, it shifts, and it goes, and you can get it back and you can lose it. But put your foot on the gas pedal. And so I have momentum. And so it was learning, how do I take this one person and turn them into 3 who over time becomes 20? I mean, right now it's interesting. I have people who know me in this industry, and their immediate guess is, well, Mark, I imagine the majority of your business comes from previous relationships. And what's funny, only about a third, maybe a little bit less than that, comes from previous relationship. While I thought coming into this, my first year or so would come majority from that, it actually hasn't been true. It's been high level execution and a dogged pursuitiveness of those I have worked with, and moving and shifting that relationship from a business transaction, business relationship to, Mark's my friend. And if I need Mark, I could call Mark. And if I was in a tight spot and I need someone to talk to, I know Mark's available. And that's a massive shift. And for me, it's been one of the true norths I've had in this business of relationship will always supersede a transaction. That I will not trade losing a relationship for getting a paycheck, because that relationship, this is multifaceted, but if we just go bare bone business, that relationship over the course of its life will far outproduce, from a dollar standpoint, what that one paycheck would have given me. And so I'm going to choose to take on a rental client and get a $200 paycheck, because I know over time I'm going to continue to be in that person's life, and we are going to have a relationship of honor and trust and friendship. And they're not only going to come back to me for their personal needs, but they're going to refer other people to me.
Absolutely.
And that kind of plays into how I view open houses. What Strengths also told me is, again, Mark, you are a strategy guy. And I knew with open houses, because there's a myriad of ways to get clients. I mean, you could have 100 people sitting in this chair, and they would all have different stories of how they got to a place of success. But for me, when I looked at open houses, what it did uniquely was it put me face to face with people.
Thank you.
And yeah, it puts you face to face with real people. And exactly. I mean, you know how many people grind for hours on a phone trying to get a real person to answer and have a non-threatening conversation? Mm-hmm. And yet I have people at open houses who walk in smiling, who want to talk to me. Yeah. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? So when I first came in, I thought it was a dead, tired waste of time, because I only saw it ignorantly as a way to sell a home. And by the way, I sell homes at open houses.
Oh, yes,
I sell these bad boys. Really.
That's bonus. That's
really. Like, just being honest, that really is. Mm-hmm. But an open house puts me in front of real people. And that allows me to be in a position of not only comfort, but of strength. Because I know I have years of experience dealing with people and not only getting to encourage them, but truly create a trust, friendship, relationship in the 15, 20 minutes that they're going to be at this house. And so that they're leaving and they're saying, man, I got to work with that guy. Not only does he know his stuff, because while you're there, I know my stuff. I have studied every house in that neighborhood. I know what is sold. I know what's around it. I'm asking you where you live, and I'm familiar where you live because I've studied everything around here. And so they leave saying, Mark's really, really sharp. He has knowledge. No one ever asked me how long you've been in this industry. I've never gotten that. I never get that because I do a lot of prep work on the front end. To know what I'm talking about. I'm not just going to spew stuff out of my mouth. I'm going to know what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to present high knowledge, high capacity within industry. But I'm also going to present myself as a friend who really cares, like, man, what matters to you and your family? What are you really looking for? What drew you here? Oh, well, you're having kids and you're changing school systems. Totally understand that. Let's talk about that. What are your longings and your desires for your kids? I want my kid to, be a great football player at so-and-so school. It's awesome. I played soccer in college. I completely understand the grind. And so I don't care who you are. You give me 5 minutes, I'm going to find some commonality. And again, that's what open houses gave me. It allowed me to take what I knew I was good at and execute it. There may be other people that, frankly, they may be hearing this and say, I'm awkward with people. Well, that's something you can grow in. That's a skill that you can develop and you should develop. You should develop. But it also may never be your fastball. And that's okay. That doesn't give you an excuse to not do people. But it also may help enlighten you toward what is your fastball. Like you may be a rock star on social media or YouTube or like fill in the blank. Then be great in that space. I just knew I'm going to be really good in this space. And so it makes all the sense in the world for me to push hard for this. So.
And, like you're saying, if you know that's your fastball, I'll have a lot of people tell me, well, I'm better with, if I could just get them from the internet, if I could get them in person, I'd be really good. Mm-hmm. So everyone's trying to get in front of people because I don't know how many homes you're going to sell without ever meeting your client. Please let me know. It's not going to be the norm. You have to meet someone to help them buy or sell a house.
Always.
So
otherwise, they're going to go to Open Door. They're going to go to Knock. Right. They're going to go to that. If they're going to do that, they're not coming to you.
They're not.
No way.
So if they can see that there's a difference and you can connect with people and do that, and you, like you said, building rapport was not a strong suit for me in the beginning. I knew 5 questions to ask, and then I used to freeze. I'd be like, oh my God, I hope they ask me something because I don't know what to say. But I recognize that, oh my gosh, I have to go work on myself. It was never bad lead. It was never their fault. It was my lack of skill.
Sure, 100%.
So I love that you're going right where you already know that you have the fastball, but anybody can work on this skill.
Absolutely.
We have 120 people coming through. You can connect with 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you can. Yeah. And even if you have 3 or 4, you can connect with 1 out of 4. That's 25%.
Which is
be for real. You can do 1 out of 4. Everybody can. If you can't, that's
how many clients could you really work with at once anyway?
Oh my goodness,
it's hard. Like all the follow up now.
I have 9 or 10 buyers who are active. I'm talking like, Mark, we need to go see property.
He's been out all the time.
I am up to my gills slammed because of open houses, like having to give stuff away. Which is like totally against the core of who I am.
The competitive nature.
Right. It's like, no, I can give stuff away. That's idiotic.
I can show at 3 in the morning.
Right. So I knew this was my fastball. And then I knew the other spaces associated with it. I could either improve or I could hand off to someone else. Like the marketing side, I can either go learn that. And frankly, I tend to be good in that space. One of my degrees is in marketing, so like I enjoy that space, but I didn't have margin for it. And so it was, how can I outsource this? Because I can't outsource people.
Right.
I can have, and I do have other agents at open houses with me because I know I can't functionally handle 150 people. You can't logistically make it happen. And again, the point is for me to build a relationship, build rapport, have a significant moment where people leave saying, I like that guy. You can't do it when you have lots of people, so you need other people there to serve with you. And all the while, you're going to coach them and pour into them by them watching and learning. So it's a really neat space to be in. But open houses met that, it was a merging of the best of me, what I knew I was competent in, and meeting a need of a client who was showing up, because we had both known the majority of people who come to an open houses, they're just beginning the process. They're probably not pre-qualified. They're coming, the majority, because they're learning what's really moving, what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to meet them on the front end, because right now in this market, everybody knows 6 quadrillion realtors. And so I get to meet with them on the very front end of it, build rapport, display expertise, and then they get to choose, do I want to go with my Uncle Billy Bob, or do I want to go with Mark McMinn? And that's their choice, like their prerogative, and I'm going to support them either way. You know, I really am. But I'm leaving them with a legitimate choice. It's not like this easy, like, okay, I'm leaving, now I need to call my realtor.
Right.
It's like, man, that guy was really sharp, and I like him. So.
I love it. So open houses decided to be your niche. When did you start getting into open houses? Was it right after the 2 months in, or?
What I decided, because initially open houses was not about building clients in my mind. It was a strategy piece. And this may be a very easy thing you can take and steal from me and make it your own. I started doing open houses to create pressure, because I knew who are the first people who come and see your brand new listing.
It's usually neighbors. Right?
The neighbors and people who love the house. I mean, if I see this and I get an MLS drip search of, 101 North Drive, and I love it, I'm calling my agent right now saying, hey, John, I don't care what you're doing, drop it. We're going to see this house. And so typically the people who love a new listing are going to be the first ones to see it.
Oh, good point.
And what I wanted to create was in my mind, it was a fake sense of pressure for them. Because everybody, and I have signage in a house that's open house, Sunday from 2 to 5 or whatever it is. I want to have these blaring signs, open house is coming. And so if you want to do business with me, today's the day. I'm not waiting until tomorrow, because somebody else is going to. And so in my mind, it was just creating creating pressure for the buyer who's excited. And it does, by the way, it does create pressure. I can't tell you how many times I get a special stipulation and that you won't have the open house. All the time. Special stipulation, you will not hold the open house on this day. It's hilarious to me. Wow. Because people are afraid of it. Yeah. They're afraid of the open house because they don't want to be in a multiple situation. And so that was the initial, but while I'm hosting this, I'm like, well, sheesh, I am meeting real people here. And the very first one I held, I left with 3 legitimate clients, like 3 legitimate, like, hey, Mark, we're not ready tomorrow, but like, give us a month and we're ready to roll. And I was like, well, shoot.
This is cool.
I'm okay with this. Like, this is good. As the guy who grinded off internet leads, and I'm not banging them. Like, internet leads are about the agent, not about the quality of the lead. But I grinded for 2 months to get the one who was going to buy the house at 160, and all of a sudden I have 3 buyers who have like a 350 budget. I mean, which one would you take? And so for me, it was like the light bulb of, wow, this is not this dusty, tired thing. People actually go to these, because it was funny. I was only seeing through my lens, because my wife and I, at no point when we were ever going to look at houses, did we ever go to an open house. To me, it was, frankly, it was a waste of time. Like, if I want to go see a house, I want to go see it privately. I want to call my agent, John, and say, John, I want to go see the house. Meet me over there at 7 o'clock. I don't want to go with a bunch of people around, and it just wasn't me. And so in my mind, it was like, who actually goes to these things? And then I started doing them, was like, people show up at these things. Yeah. Like, wow. And so that was the proverbial blue pill that was like, oh my goodness, this might be a game changer.
So it became a game changer. So how did you start formulating your strategy? And tell us a little bit about your kind of strategic approach, if you will.
Again, I tend to be a learner. I tend to be someone who is, every moment is, has purpose, whether it's purpose toward rest. I mean, even when we're just bumming around the house watching Netflix, you're doing something. You're using your time. And so I continue to look at myself and evaluate of where am I potentially wasting? And one of those spaces what we all have is, you got time in the car. You just do. And so I started absorbing a lot of material via podcasts, because there's a number of really great ones out there. and began hearing some consistent themes of success at open houses and how they were doing it. One of those things was a lot of really good social media marketing on the front end. And that, let me back up. Great pictures go a really long way. Selling a house, and I'll say this to sellers, it's really two things. Bare bone, it's two things. It's right price, right marketing. Now, there's a lot of magic underneath all of that. That takes a lot of work, but that's really it. And so for me, it was beginning with making sure I was having really quality marketing. And that boiled over into open houses. Again, you can just, and most don't even do this, stick it on Zillow, stick it on Realtor, Redfin, fill in your blank, and have it on the MLS, open house sunset. And if you've done nothing, that's a great place to start. But I heard another guy, and I'm a great collector of information. He would create events using Facebook, just a Facebook event, like you'd see a birthday or whatever. And so you create this event, and then we will strategically send that out into people's feed. And you have to have a business Facebook account to do this. So if you don't, that's another great next step. Create a business Facebook account. Mine's McMinn Real Estate at Remax Regency. And we create this event, and we'll put all the details, all the specs. I will have a single property website that I've created for the home, and I will have that there because, again, everything's about lead gen at this point. And so we'll take them there to that single property. It will have the pop-up box, put in your information for more info or blah, blah, blah. And then I will begin circulating these leads, and I'll begin to work those leads, and we can talk about that later if you want to. But in all of this, we're creating this event, and so I'm seeing people are saying, maybe yes. And so it's this person to some degree has raised their hand saying, I am at some level of engaging with the home buyer process. And so immediately I'm hopping on there, friending them, sending a message. Hey, Susie, I see that you are coming to the open house. So pumped to meet you. Feel free to shoot me any questions. I'll go ahead and send you a link to all the information on the house so you can really be aware of what's going on. But I also know this may not be the house. It's a pretty awesome house, but it may not be the house. So what if I go ahead and find some similar properties to this one, and I go ahead and start sending those to you so you can really have a grasp on what's moving. And what I find is my correspondence rate via Facebook Messenger is way higher than email. I mean, astronomically higher than email.
I love that he just said that because it is so true. Anytime someone messages me on Facebook, I have never, ever, I've only been on 4 years. I've never ignored a Facebook Messenger.
That's right.
But I have ignored lots of emails. I don't think I ignore the text messages, but private message.
I'm telling you, it's true.
So
and part of it,
awesome.
I'm telling you, part of the reason why is I can see that you've seen my message. And I don't want to have this awkwardness that's now going to exist if I just flat out ignore you. I don't want that. We're in the South. We are manners. I am not going to be rude. I'm going to message you back. Right. And
I love
I'm telling you, it's amazing when you study how correspondence works. And so I'll send them a message on Facebook and begin that relationship via online. And so when they get there, I've already looked at the list. And frankly, the vast majority of those people do not show up. But they've raised their hand and they said, Mark, I'm interested. And I closed 2 people last week who started off as a maybe on a Facebook event. They literally just said I might come, and just staying intact with them, putting them on a drip search on FMLS, and voila. I have another one message me today. They started off as a rental, hey, I'm looking for a rental. And then all of a sudden their landlord says, hey, I'm selling the house. You got to go. And they're saying, hey, Mark, we're ready to buy a house all of a sudden, So that's where I go back. Internet leads, it's the quality of the agent and having the right strategy in place on how you're going to execute. And so we create a Facebook event. We market that out, and I'm hiding it from all of you. So if you all are well, I've never seen a Facebook event, it's because I hide it from you. Facebook allows me to hide it from other brokers, realtors. So I'm not paying for you to see my ad. That's a waste of my money. And so I'll hide it from all of you. I'll hide it from all those people. I want it to be sent to people who are looking to move, which I can tell Facebook, I'm looking for someone who is moving. I'm looking for someone who is interested in home buying. I'm looking for someone who household income is this amount. And so I'm being very, very selective. And what that allows me to do is not waste a lot of money. I can effectively network and use an open house for $5. I mean, I really can. And all of this, I'm getting to say to a seller. And so you're walking in saying, here's my, CMA report from Cloud CMA. Let's work together. Like, good luck, because I'm going to win. I'm just telling you, I'm going to have an hour with these people, and I'm not going to pressure them to sign a contract. They're going to call me, or they're going to pressure me to sign a contract. And so we're talking through all of these logistics. But then I create that single property website, and on that we push the open house, and then I go to the homeowners and say, hey, and we've talked about this from the very beginning. This is a partnership. Like, you're helping me just as much as I'm helping you. And so what I need from you is to have not only you share this on your personal Facebook page, but I need you to ask for other people who are influencers in your life. Who is that? It's not Gary Vaynerchuk.
Is that a Tom Ferry thing?
No.
Friends of Friends marketing?
Although, correct, same idea. Another guy calls it sneezers. People who have just lots of people around them who, man, when I speak, people listen. And so I asked them, like, who are some people in your network? Exactly. Yeah, seriously. Who are the people in your network, your sphere of influence, who have a large network? And I want you to send them a message on Facebook saying, hey, Bill, I'm getting ready to sell my house. It would really mean a lot for me if you would share this. And so I have them share it from my Facebook. It's all drawing back here, but it's serving this event. And so we do a lot of prep work that way. We'll also use marketing on Instagram, because all of Instagram and Facebook are owned by this, it's a mutual ownership, which allows you to market symbiotically. And so we'll do all of that. I'll occasionally do some video work, because Facebook loves video. It prioritizes video over stills and very much over just typed content. And so we'll do some video work for that. Then going into it, I have gone to all the neighbors and I've printed off a little thing. Typically it's a door hanger. If I have time to get all that done. If I don't, then it's just, literally just a little cardstock card, and I'm putting that on the mailbox, the little wood part, you'd see like in the 90s, all the stuff, just tagging that on there, inviting them out, making sure that they know, they're aware of what's going on, because again, they're connected. They're probably not going to move across the street. No, if they're a renter, they might. Yeah. But absolutely. And the reality is, I want to sell their house. Yeah. And so I want them to know Mark McMinn is selling this house, and now they're going to be watching to see how fast, how much, how fast and how much. And they're going to see I'm going to sell it in a really quick time frame, and I'm going to get above list. And so like right now, I just listed 2 homes right across the street from each other. And I'm going to get another one right down the street, and then another one on the other side of the street, because they're watching. And that's the only point for me. I don't need them to come to the open house. If I do, it's a luxury item. I want them to, for sure. But I want them to watch me. I want their eyeballs to be on me to see how I perform here. Because if I can get them to sell, I can also get them to buy with me.
Dress rehearsal.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
You don't even know it.
Yep, absolutely. And then we also do circle prospecting within a neighborhood. And I don't have the margin to have live phone calls. I'm working towards that. But I personally will use RedX and GeoLeads. And I will then call the neighbors and the day before and say, hey, just a reminder, I know you saw the thing on the mailbox, but man, I want you to be there. Like, I want you to be there. You're going to love this house. It's going to help you understand, have a grasp on what your home value is. Because listen, I don't know if you've known, like, the market's not what it was in 2013. But you may be sitting on $100,000 right now, my friend. And so I want them to be there. And so we're pushing all of that. Right now, I'm just using a service that allows me to just leave a voicemail with all of them, just because, again, I don't have the margin in my day. Although that's my desire. Like, my desire is for them to walk in having already had a conversation with me. I love it. So again, we have a friendship relationship, but it's better than nothing. So there's that. I was also the guy before all of this that said signs are like the most worthless thing on the planet. Physical signs, like, forget it. So lame, no way. I'll put out about 30 signs.
I love it.
I'm telling you, like, every major, I'm flocking with signs, and they say 2 things. Top side is Mark McMinn, my information, area expert, and then below that is just signage pointing which way. And I want to be almost obnoxiously present when I have an open house. I want people to be like, who the heck is this guy who's putting signs everywhere? I want them to be almost irritated at the amount of signs, And so,
I was hoping you were going to say that, because
I'm telling you.
the class that I created, I put, 15 to 20 signs, and then I added all the facial expressions that I thought were going to occur in the room.
Yep.
I mean, it's hard because it's like, what? I mean,
Yeah.
but it's so true. It makes such a
100%.
difference.
I can't tell you how many
oh
people,
my gosh.
because, and I have a process of registering people, and we use Open House Pro. And one of the questions that it populates is, how did you hear about us? And the amount of people who just say, I saw a sign, and I just, like, it astounds me. It absolutely astounds me. Ricky Carruth says, to sell $1 million of real estate, you need 10,000 emails. And that's within his marketing system, but I think it's a pretty true number in my experience. And so to get that person's email, I'll gladly stick a sign out. I'll gladly do this grind, because they're all putting their information in. And now they're on a drip search where I'm sending them video each week and market updates, and you need to be at Boo in the Zoo. And like, I'm giving them all of this added value, so that I am both electronically and in person creating a friendship relationship where they trust me and they like me.
I love it.
And so again, the challenge that we are all facing is, right now in this market, everybody knows 100 of us. Everybody knows 100 marks. They do. They know 100 people who can open a door.
Just so you know, in Atlanta, they're saying that there's 700 people getting their license every month.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I had 2 people today send me a message on Facebook saying, "Hey, Mark, how do I get licensed?" And here's the information, but maybe we should have a different conversation first to make sure this is what you think it is. Oh, you're
sorry.
okay. You're
got
okay.
something in my eye. Just ignore me. You're not listening to me.
But yeah, I want to make sure they have knowledge of what they're getting into, because I don't ever want you to have an unrealistic expectation. Know what you're getting into, because it's a grind. I mean, what I'm describing here, I decided I got the opportunity to play college soccer, and I can tell you definitively, from the time I started playing at 4 all the way through the end of my career, there was literally never a team that I was the best person, the most talented person on. Never. But what I learned in 5th grade, my coach reminded me of this and told me this, Mark, how hard you work is a choice. It's an internal choice that you get to decide, and you get to make the decision on. And what I decided is, fine, you may be more talented than me. I can outwork you. And if you beat me, I can sleep at night knowing I busted it. I gave everything I did, and I'm okay with losing to you in that scenario. I don't want to ever lose to you. But if I do, it's just because you worked as hard as me, and you're just simply more talented. I could work the rest of my life as hard as I can, and LeBron James will still be better than me,
True.
And so, piece of reality, but I work incredibly hard. I put in massive time, and I have an outstanding wife, an outstanding family who empowers me to do that. Because if you listen to Grant Cardone, something he says all the time is, I'm playing a different game. Most people, they're doing a 9 to 5, and their game is, I'm just going to get by for the rest of my life. I'm just going to make just enough to make all this manage and work. And then when, something wonky happens, I'm stressed, and it's that cycle. Well, for me, the game I'm playing is, I'm going to bust it really hard so that on the back end of my life and generations beyond me can be set up in a different way to live from a position of blessing and not stress-free, but to live in a position that allows them to function in the manner that they desire to, whether that is to work 7 a.m. to midnight. If you want to do that, that's awesome. But I don't want us to have to.
Right. It's much better when it's a choice.
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
I just love the passion level that you're bringing to the industry, because I feel sometimes that's what's lacking.
Sure.
It's just, the passion to do the grind and to help as many people as possible, and to see the true joy that comes from those relationships that you're establishing, and look at the big picture of it. And instead of it being a chore, let it be a blessing that you get to go do something instead of have to go do something.
Absolutely.
I have to put out 20 signs. No, you get to.
Right. Well, here's the reality. It's deciding, what do you want on the front end? If you want to be the agent who gets to sell 2 homes a year and go to Disney World, I don't begrudge you. Like, that's awesome that you get to go do that. I am so excited that you had a goal and you met it. But that's not my goal. That never, ever, ever will be my goal. My goal is in my local market, and like, I'm going to say this publicly. I want to be Mark Spain. Like, I want you in 20 years to see my name all over the place.
Watch out, Mark.
Yeah, right.
Mark's coming.
Right,
Mark.
right. No kidding.
I love it.
But when you have large dreams, hope is not a strategy to get you there. there have to be steps involved to achieve that. And then those steps have to be executed. And that's where the rub comes in for a lot of people. It's very easy to dream and have aspirations for certain realities, whether it be 100 people, 500 people at an open house. There have to be steps to get you there, and you have to do the work and the grind to get it. And here's what's also fun that most people don't realize. The true work of an open house is not before. It's in the follow-up after.
In the follow-up.
It's in the follow-up, because everybody, like the sexy thing right now is, how do I automate my follow-up? And that's true. Like, there is a level that you have to have systems in play, but that will never supersede a relationship that exists person to person. I mean, I genuinely, I get discouraged in my spirit when someone texts via a drip search where that has an automated thing I have set up, text them and says, "Hey, Bill, love seeing you." And they text back and says, "Who is this?" And it's like, crap, I got to log into my system now and do all of this, because it's not true. It's speaking for me, and it's speaking from a truth of who I am. But now I have to go through all my systems to correspond with this person, And so have automated, have that there, have it in place, but it should never be the dominant. It should never be a barrier to relationship, because again, relationship is everything. It is the currency in this industry, and frankly, most other industries. So I'll jump into what happens when I get someone there. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, because I think it's the Facebook marketing, it's the create the event. I've also heard some things, and I've talked about these in my class, of having 2 weeks to prepare for the open house ahead of time.
Oh, that's ideal. Okay. That's ideal.
Ideal, if you can. And every other day, maybe doing a short little video, not so much about the house, but just about the area. Like,
yes.
I hope you're coming to see this house that we just listed in Bethlehem. It is located right near this wonderful dog park. And there's also and so every other day you're doing like 30 seconds on something about the community, because you're trying to find interests for different people.
And you're presenting yourself as an expert.
Exactly.
You're presenting yourself as, I'm someone who can not only sell your home, but can sell this community. I'm not just here to sell this one house. I'm here to sell these 30 houses. And that sets me, I mean, I've seen guys brilliantly in prep to an open house meet with the awesome little local diner and the owner and interview him for 15 minutes on Facebook Live. And I'm looking at that saying, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. That's setting you up as a guy who is local in the community, who knows the community, and is able to sell the community well. Not just the house.
Yeah, and help other businesses. Help
absolutely.
Other people.
And another tangent. What's beautiful in that is now that business owner is sharing that video. And it's just all of a sudden this multiplication, because I'll also meet a lot of people in this industry who are like, "Mark, I don't have money for door hangers, and I don't want to spend money. I don't have. Okay, if you had nothing, grab a whiteboard and figure out how to do marketing, and then go do that. There's always a way to move the ball down the field. Always.
Always.
Money should not be a barrier. If it is, you're lazy. You're just lazy. And so when I get someone to an open house, ideally it's myself and someone else from the team here at Remax who is going to partner with me in that. And so that person will typically be at the front door, and they will really be a concierge to the process. They will say, "Welcome to 2075 Harfield Court. Here's some specs on the home. Here's some recent updates, things that really will matter to you. We're an acre lot, fully fenced in, new HVAC, new air handler, blah, blah, blah. And here's my card. I know you're going to have a bunch of questions, but let me introduce you to my partner, Mark. This is his listing. And not only does he know the house, he knows the area really well. And so he'll be able to help answer that questions. Maybe you're desiring in Bethlehem, the house I'm referring to, there are a few private academies. And so I'll be able to speak on those, not just the local sport, all these various pieces. And so they're doing a handoff, and then we are ideally walking them through the whole of the house. Some people are for that, some are against it. I'm for it because, again, my fastball is I want to be face-to-face with you. I'm walking, we're talking about the closets, I'm aware, all of that. But at the end of the day, oh, you're from Pittsburgh. Really? Tell me about that. How'd you get down here? Oh, I know my buddy's an engineer. Which one are you working at? No way. We're building rapport. And again, that's a currency that I'm going to cash in on later.
Well, I love that you say that, because there is a big, and I think I just had an aha moment. I've had a million right now, but when he said, it doesn't work for everybody. I think the whole hang up with walking people through is that they think they have to be tour guide, which you don't want to be.
Oh, no,
So
absolutely
when
not.
he's walking through, he knows that his fastball is, I'm going to make a friend. And it's hard for me to make a friend when they've already seen the house and now they're getting ready to hightail it out.
Mhm.
Now I got to try to corner them at the end and they're like,
It's
now I
awkward.
want to
It's
leave
awkward.
here.
Yes,
Awkward.
absolutely.
But so it's so good. I love that. It's such a great point that you bring up. And if you're not good at rapport building, what a great way to practice.
Yeah,
And get better.
practice it, and then seriously, figure out 5, 6, 10 questions that you can just have as go-tos. And frankly, be okay letting people talk. It's okay for me to ask, so where are you moving from? Well, I'm moving from Loganville. Well, why are you moving? Well, we're moving because my mom lives over this way and her health's declining and we just want to be closer. Wow, I completely understand why you would do that. That's a sign of a really great daughter. I have so much respect for that. So did you grow up in Loganville? Oh, well, yeah, kind of. We grew up, but it's changed so much. Gosh, you are not kidding. It has changed. In your opinion, what's changed so much? I'm taking that one little bit of information and I'm trying to pull it a bunch of different ways because I'm building a relationship with you.
And
You matter. You're the subject, not me.
Yeah, and it wasn't, have you been pre-qualified?
Oh, absolutely not. No, although I do want to know that, and I'm going to find that out when you log in.
Yeah,
I'm going to find that out when you log in. I don't want to talk about any of that until the very end. The very, very end, after we've spent our 30 minutes together, now they're going to head to the door, and I'm going to say, so, Holly, you've seen the house. I need your help. Like, you're really sharp. I need your help. If you were to say, like, this house is on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Roach Motel, and I'm saying that to kind of have a quick little joke so they can get a smile on their face. Like Roach Motel, like, ugh, or like 10 being my bags are packed, I'm dumping my stuff in tonight. Where would you put the house? And I don't care what they say. Right. That is so inconsequential for me because if they say, Marcus, be honest, like it's really a 4, then I'm gonna say, man, I love your honesty. Thank you so much. So I'm guessing that you're looking for houses that are more like a 9 or a 10. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what if I got some time in my day when I get home, what if I go online and I just find some other houses that really are more of like a 9 or a 10 and I send those to you? Well, that'd be fine. Yeah, that's great. Well, cool. Let me walk over. Let me write down, this is your information. Yeah, okay, great. I'll send that over to you later today. And it was great meeting you. Hope you have an awesome day and we'll talk soon. So I'm leaving casual. I'm not selling, not hard selling. Add value. For me, it's constantly, how can I add value to what you're doing? Like when they walk into the open house, I have a few different spaces, interaction points. Mm-hmm. And one of those is a guide on the community. And it'll typically be according to the county. And it's stuff that I can throw together using Canva in 48 hours. So now I have a bunch of them for all the counties around here that are just local hotspots, like just some basic like local information. Because all of these open house people, they go to 5, they go to 10. And I'm going to stand out. Like if you're holding one, mine's going to be better than yours, you know? And so equivocally. And so I'm trying to create these spaces where they walk in and have a wow moment of like, man, this guy worked really hard for this. And I want someone who's going to work really hard for me. And so when they walk in, I'll ask them to sign in and we'll talk through that. You know, there's a security side of that so that if someone walks away with $1 million and the master closet, like I'll know who was here. Exactly. Now you're smiling and laughing and that's a win because we all know there's not the $1 million. But and I'll tell them like, that's my joke. Yeah. I'm a dad joke person. I'm cheesy. Again, I know me, like I'm cheesy and dad joke, but I'm telling you that and it's almost endearing. It's endearing.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's just so cute.
And so be yourself. Like if you really are like the comedian, be the comedian. Figure out who you are because everybody else is taken. Like be you and be the best version of you, you know? And so in case the $1 million walks away, like I'll know who was here. And now like it's not threatening for me to sign in.
Right.
I don't feel like you're about to jam my email inbox with a gazillion emails because I'm not. That's going to be at your speed. And they can unsubscribe and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to blow them up. And so they'll go and sign in and then we'll begin the process of walking around together. Again, they have my card the whole time and I'll make sure they have it at the end. Hey, you got my card, right? Okay, cool, you got my card. And frankly, I think this matters. I spend really good money on cards. Like if you're to hold it, it's like this hard, nice card stock, you know, it's from moo.com if you're looking for a good spot, just really quality stuff. And it's pretty regular. People are like, these are a nice card. And the whole space is creating this culture of Mark is on top of it. He is professional. He works hard and he's helpful. I like this guy. From the smallest detail of a business card up to at the table, we'll have those community guides. I will have a laptop set up with a website that will walk through what's your home value. I will have on clipboards, I will have two things, two sets of clipboards. One is a feedback guide because I want to be able to give that to the homeowner. Because again, that presents really well. And so it's just like 3 questions and how would you rate this and how would you rate this and any other comments. And so I'll give them that for while we're walking and they'll make notes and da-da-da. And the other one is I will have literal purchase and sale agreements out on at the kitchen table or whatever. And I'll tell them like, hey, I know there are going to be people today that make an offer on the house. So I want you to know if you're ready to go, today's the day. You know, and whether they do it or not means nothing to me. Again, it's the perception that this house is going to move. Like this house is going to move. And so you can be the person or not. I don't care. Now, again, I couldn't care less of it.
Who cares?
It's not the point. It's not the point. Exactly. Exactly. And so we have that stuff out. And again, thinking add value. So I'm helping them figure out what is your home worth if you're a homeowner. And then these are some great spots in the community. These are my 2 things, my 2 ways that I'm going to add value outside of just myself, bringing a level of expertise and enjoyment to your 30 minutes you're here. So when they leave, we'll ask that question 1 to 10, and then I'll get them on a drip search, and then I'll just begin to follow up. Find them on Facebook.
So you find them
absolutely.
on Facebook?
Why? Because that's a friendship space. Email is not a friendship space.
Just send a friend request?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Holly Fogel shows up. I'm going to friend Holly Fogel. And then I'm going to send you a message. Hey, love meeting you today. Super excited to see where your next steps lead to. And I want to help you out, whatever that looks like. And so we're just beginning a friendship. Because again, social media is a friendship space. Sure, we all have friends we've never met on Facebook. Or maybe not all of us, but a lot of us do. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, email is not a friendship space.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a corporate business space. And so I'm not going to push that really hard. I want to be your friend. Like here's another easy little thing you can do tomorrow. Take all of your clients that you've worked with and create a group on Facebook where they exist. And I'll go on there 3 or 4 times a day. And it isn't, if their status is happy, we're liking it. If it's sad, we're putting a little sad face. Like I'm constantly interacting because it's a way for me to stay front of mind, which is another thing that Facebook does, which is why I friend all these people. So I can see what's going on in your life. And so when I see them again, it's, hey, I saw you got a new dog. That dog was so cute. Oh my God, where'd you get it? And so I'm part of your life now. Like Mark knows me and he values me.
And you
can't do that via email.
No.
You can't do that.
And I'm also thinking all these people that you're friending are people that if they didn't buy the house, the next open house, I'm thinking you're saying, hey, I met you at the other open house. I'm holding another one.
Yep. I missed that. Yes. So I go into, I use Lion Desk and I will, every time I have an open house, it's, hey, this is going on. Love to have you out. Here's the directions. Here's some video. Here's some pictures, blah, blah, blah. And so we're also inviting those people out because again, I want them to come out, but just as much, I want them to see Mark's moving. Right. Like Mark is serious. And if I want somebody to do it, Mark clearly knows what's going on. So yeah, after this is over, then it's the grind because
I can't imagine having 120 people.
It's a grind because also the stats say it takes between 8 and 12 interactions for someone to now correspond in a significant way back to you. Because people are so trained, especially in this market where it's hot and everybody knows a quadrillion realtors, that I want to be sold now. And I don't want to be sold. I've never met the person who wants to be sold. They may want to be empowered. They may want to be helped, but no one wants to be sold because that implies you're pushing something on me that I didn't really want myself. And I'm going to leave and have a euphoric moment while you're selling me. And then I'm going to have buyer's regret in however long. We don't want to be sold. We want to be helped. Right. We want value to be added to who I am. I want to be understood. And so in that, I never want to sell. I never, ever, ever want to sell, although I'm a salesman. That's, some people really push against that. And I'm not that guy because I am a salesman. But it comes from a posture and a position of, I want to add value. And so if it takes 8 to 12 interactions for a significant follow-up, you do the math.
That's a lot.
It is very significant, which goes back to why we do have to have automated systems and pieces in place. And there are a lot of people I learned from who are doing a great job with that. Ricky Carruth is one of my favorites. He puts all his information online. He has a Facebook group. It's called
Zero to
Diamond. Great resource. Great resource. Where he puts all of his stuff out for free, all of his weekly newsletters. And
he's actually been in town and offered and came and spoke to a group of us. And he's
right.
amazing.
He is.
You really should check him out. Ricky Caruth. He's out of Orange Beach, Alabama. And he's amazing. He's a big giver, and he just does a great job.
He's
and
a rock
it's
star.
all with the helping mentality. All he's trying to do is make friends and help people. And that's really what it's about. So when you get 120 people and you start this follow-up process, what is your world looking like now? How many did you end up with last Sunday? You were at 50 after the first hour.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
When are we doing this interview?
Right. Yeah.
And that's not like in the heart of downtown Atlanta. I just want to tell you.
No, I mean, like,
out in Bethlehem.
Like, we're in the sticks. You know, we're in rural Metro Athens, really.
Yeah, and I'll get people like, oh, it must have been $100,000 house. He got all those people. I'm like, I'm not thinking so.
It's really not. Like, we're close to 3. You know, which again, that still gives you a large buyer pool, but it's not the 100,000 house that's rock star that you're going to get anyone who's breathing to show up.
Right.
These are people who are legitimate, and even if they're not, so what? I'm not. If the people who show up at an open house have no money, I'm okay with that, because relationship is what I'm chasing after here. And if you're not today, that's okay. There's a day coming where you probably will be in a position, and then you're going to think of me.
Well, we don't change people. As I always tell people, you're looking for MQL, is what we call them. Motivated, qualified, loyal people. And it doesn't really matter what the M and the Q are. You have to establish the L, or the relationship. So you have to establish loyalty. And the only way to do that is to invest in people.
Sure,
so
100%.
Have time. Go sit and have coffee with somebody, regardless of whether or not they can afford the coffee. It's about creating loyalty with as many people so that you're the resource whenever they become M and Q.
Sure. Because again, they probably will.
Yes,
chances are, if they are looking for a house, there is going to be a day where they're qualified.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just our reality.
And unless you're getting out of business in 6 months, you need a pipeline.
Right. Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
I love you are building an unbelievable pipeline of people to help.
Absolutely. 100%. And so for me, the follow-up right now, again, let's go back to margin, because margin is real. You know, I still have a wife. I still have kids that I want to love me long-term, you know? And so I invest time there. And it's not always the quantity, but I do want the quality to be right. And so the pendulum swings back and forth within time and margin. You know, we say, you know, Lauren, I'm going to be gone a good bit here, but I'm going to invest back here. And so, you know, we have that in our marriage, and it works. But when you leave, even frankly, with 40 people, and it's one agent, I mean, 40 to 1, like that's a lot of people to follow up with now, especially if you have any other clients who are needing, you know? And so for me, I leave that, and the people who I had significant conversation and relationship with are the immediate firsts. It's now I'm going to fast forward past any drips or anything. It's, hey, Jeremy and Nicole, who are a real couple. I met them at this open house. They said, hey, we were talking to this other agent and she never got back with us. We told her we wanted to list our house and she said, no, you're not ready. I mean, like, what's happening right now? What's happening right now? You know, just all of these things. And I was like, guys, like, I'm not trying to take you away from that other agent. My advice is you need to be in a position where you feel like you are served and well cared for. And if that's not there, then that's a conversation for you all to have. And so we leave and they're like, Mark, we want you to list our house this weekend and we need you to help us find another house. So in the course of 7 days, $650,000 total of real estate, just like off a 30-minute conversation, you know, and so those are the people I'm following up with first. Who did I have a significant interaction with? Who is motivated and qualified? Because we do, again, want to begin there. I don't want to spend my time with the 16-year-old, you know.
We don't ignore people, but we have to be smart.
Exactly. We want to be strategic with our time, because it is, you only have a certain amount of it. And so we want to be wise with that. And so I'm chasing after who is ready right now. And then the others I want to continue interaction with, but it's just going to look different. Because also the reality is, we get this too. If you're just at the very beginning stages, you don't want a realtor calling you saying, hey, you ready to look at houses? You ready to make an offer? You ready? You ready? You ready? You don't want that. And so I want to meet them where they are. And it's going to be a similar level of interaction and value add, you know. And so for that couple, it's, hey, we really want to list our house. We haven't signed with anybody. We had this person who was talking to us and wasn't willing to do what we're wanting to do. What do you think? And it was absolutely, let me pay a guy to do your yard. Let me pay a guy to do your carpets. Let me pay a guy to paint your house. Let me invest about $1,000 into you. And then we'll list your house this weekend. And they were so blown away that Mark paid for this, this, and this, that they told their 3 buddies who were looking to move, and they're now calling me. And so $1,000 is going to turn into a lot more than $1,000.
Yeah.
And again, that's the kind of stuff most people are either because of fear or lack of seeing proof choose not to do. And for me, this makes all the sense in the world. This makes all the sense in the world. Whether those 3 people come to me immediately or down the road, they are having such a significant experience with someone who is in an industry that, if we're all honest, has kind of a negative connotation in public's perception. It's the money-hungry alcoholics who drive the nice cars. And I'm trying to push against that. I'm trying to push against that and be someone who is trusted off the bat, who Mark truly has my best interest at heart. Mark is not going to try to sell me on a home. He is not going to push his agenda. He is truly going to fight for me. And so when you get in that position, people, they give you, they give you all of it.
They give you everything.
They give you everything. Here's the keys to the kingdom.
It really is true. And that, I think, really our industry is starving for that.
Yes.
And if there were more quality experiences like you're taking them through, and so many of you are top-notch people anyway, but if more and more people had this kind of experience, the online things, the one-size-fits-all, the flat fee things, would go away because they wouldn't.
Oh, absolutely.
People wouldn't.
Absolutely.
People are actually starving for what we're trying to give. I just don't know that we're putting ourselves out there to really win enough.
This same couple I just referred, Nicole and Jeremy, really outstanding people. When we first were conversing at this open house, they just told me, they were like, we're really frustrated that we have to pay an agent 3%. Like, this particular individual, their words were, they are not earning my money at all. And so I don't want to pay 3% ever. And so I have that in my head. And again, I'm okay with that. Like, it's not how I want the conversation to go, but I can move and I can adjust accordingly. And so again, I pay for the yard, I pay for paint, I paid the carpet, things to get done. And the line I use, and it's a very earnest, it's a leadership principle line, that the straw that breaks the camel's back wasn't the reason the camel's back was broken. It was the myriad of straws. It was the million straws that broke the camel's back. That just happened to be the last one. And often what I find in this industry is, if I can take away a little bit of your pressure, because every homeowner feels massive pressure.
Yes.
Because when I go to list a house, I put you through the ringer. I mean, we literally walk through 47 things that I require a house to have before I will list it. And so I'm demanding a lot of you on the front end. But then I come on the back end and say, hey, I realize I'm asking a lot. And so what I want to do is, I can't take away all of your pressure. I can't do that. But I can take away 1, 2, or 3 things. And they're just like, oh my gosh. Can you believe what that guy just did?
That's awesome.
You know, it's game changer. It's absolute game changer. And so whether that is, I don't care if you get the mower yourself, you don't have money. Like, figure out a way to take away some of their pressure, and it will leave such a sense of endearment and such a sense of trust and value. And like, this agent is so far and above they're telling neighbors, like, all of it.
I love that. You know, that's such a great point. And people are so appreciative.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
You know, but what a great mindset, you know, if I can just take away some of the pressure. Because I tell people all the time, oh my gosh, if you want to know what your clients are going through, put your house on the market.
That's right.
You will immediately turn into freakazoid, stressed out, crazy person.
That's right.
It is so stressful. We're engaging with people when they're really at their stressed.
Yes.
You know, not when they're at their best.
Yes.
As Brian Buffini likes to say. And it really is true. And I think sometimes we forget how stressful it is to buy and sell.
Absolutely.
And so you bring up a great point. And the other person, Terry Watson, is another speaker, trainer. He's real funny, but he brings up a good point, and I'm always thinking this in anything that I do, and even in coaching and training, is what are the pain points for people?
That's
when
right.
they go to sell their house,
question.
What irks people about real estate transactions? You know, what irks people? Well, we already know that when it comes to listing, well, they put the sign in the yard, lockbox on the door, and then I don't hear anything else until we get, it's lack of communication. So you should be on a communication schedule. You know, I'm not the one that's going to put the sign in the yard and then disappear. You know, I get onto a schedule. And with buying, what's the frustration with buyer? What stresses buyers out? If you can locate what stresses them out and start asking your consumers, you know, what do you find frustrating about the home buying process? When you start finding those out, then you can tailor your communication, your expertise, your service commitments to exactly what annoys people in the transaction and get rid of it.
Well, and I love that you brought that up because we go back to Jeremy and Nicole. Again, they said, like, we don't want to pay 3%. I'm so frustrated at seeing other people who don't get back to me, who aren't on my agenda and aren't fighting for me. I'm just not doing that. Like, you're not earning it. So we go through all this. And on the back end of that, when we're going through, because I'll walk them through every detail of the listing agreement before I ever email it to them and blah, blah, blah. And so they literally look at me and say, Mark, we can't pay you 3%. We have to pay you 4%. We have to pay you 4%. This has been so far and above anything we could have ever dreamed. And so someone who came into it very negative and like, no, this is what we're going to pay, now says, I want to pay above what tends to be standard because you have so made an impact. And so within all of that, when you truly put people ahead of yourself, often they will reciprocate. People will tell, Dave Ramsey says, people will say thank you by giving you something with the president's face on it. They will tell you thank you. And then they will refer you, and that gets really cyclical. Another leadership principle, and what you were just speaking of that I have learned and I hope I embody, is expectation in life can be what propels us to be our very best, or it can cause us to descend into our very worst. When I have an expectation that my agent is going to be corresponding with me in a certain time, using a certain medium, and whatever it is, and that is not met, then I'm frustrated now. And it's my job as the agent to be the leader in this relationship. And so I tell them, these are the ways that I typically correspond. What works best for you? Well, Mark, we prefer you to text us. Absolutely, I would do that. Now, I want you to know, while I'm not chaotically busy, we all have stuff in our life. You know, like I have this coming up. My daughter has surgery to have tubes put in. And, you know, there are times where stuff comes up. And then also, as you can see right now, and you probably noticed, like my phone's on silent when I'm in with a client because I'm all here for you. Like you are what's in front of me. You are what matters. But when I leave here, there are some other stuff in my life. And so typically I give like an 8-hour window to text someone back. Is that okay with you? Yes, that's okay. And if they say no, well, then help me understand what's a realistic. So I'm setting expectation for all of this because I don't want them to be sitting over there saying, what is this guy doing? We're paying him all this money. And in their mind, they don't know that you're split and they don't know that you're paying any MLS. They don't know that you're all the things going on. They don't know all that. And so they're just seeing like, we're paying you this fat check. Call me back, text me back, whatever. And so I'm creating a very, very clear expectation for all of us so that we all know the rules and we know what winning looks like. We know how this is going to play out. And then I abide by those. I do not cross those lines unless it's an absolute emergency. And so that tends to put us all in a healthy position relationally to even in the moments where we are stressed and like the house isn't moving and we're not seeing what we want. We've had communication the whole time.
Yeah. And right now we're in a market where homes are selling fast in certain price ranges. When I was actively selling, average days on market was around 160 to 170.
Yep.
So it was a very different time because I made that upfront commitment to talk to every client every Tuesday. And right from the beginning, I would say, listen, there's some weeks I'm going to call and be like, ooh, this is going on. This is going on. I got this call and I got this feedback. And then there's going to be those weeks where it's, ooh, crickets.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're still going to hear from me. So, I mean, I can remember calling clients and they're like, oh my God, I feel so bad that the house hasn't sold. You're doing so good. I know. Like they felt sorry for me.
Right.
Because they knew like there's nothing I could control. The house was priced right. It was marketed great. It was just, you know, we had 13,000 homes on the market back then. Whereas now we're at 1,300.
Yes.
So very different life, but it's really true. If you just do what you say you're going to do and everybody agrees up front, it's so nice.
And that's all part of follow-up. All of this conversation is now the follow-up grind because the vast majority of us, fortunately and unfortunately, I completely understand it, are looking for what is the quick thing that I can do to get maximum result. And in life, a very, very, very easy principle to understand is if you put little in, expect little out. Like the person who puts $1 into the lottery and gets $1 billion back, that is extremely, extremely rare. So don't base your life off of that hope. Instead, own that it's going to take me significant work over a long period of time to get great, sizable results. But if I have a plan and I work my plan, often it will produce the results that I've longed for.
That is great advice right there. I mean, it's fantastic. So what I'd like to offer to all of you, because this is a recording and you've been able to listen and go back and listen again, go ahead and post in Facebook any questions that you have, any follow-up questions. I will make sure Mark has already agreed to answer anything else to clarify. Any final thoughts or advice for people about doing open houses? Or, you know, I still am a little bit mystified why more people aren't doing them, but it's okay. I get really excited when I see people have such passion and get such great results. He is working very hard. So any final things or other little nuances that you'd like to share?
I think I would circle back to the beginning of our conversation. And the best advice I can ever give someone, because it's been my story and my truth, is choose to take a journey and take a path to understand who you are. Who is the best version of you? Because it's very easy to look at people who are having great results and adapt yourself to that. And the reality, as I said, is that person's already taken. You can't be that, but you can be you. You are taken, but you're also not taken. You can choose to be you. And so do the front end work, even though it may choose in your mind to take away a little bit of your day-to-day grind. Lay a good foundation so that the house can be built well, opposed to a poor foundation that's trying to chase after every other person. Be the best version of you and figure that out. So that would be my best advice.
I love it. Do you plan open houses every week, twice a month? What's your schedule for open houses?
Yep. I always tell, because something people ask me often is, is an open house a negotiation point? Is that something how you sell sellers? Again, for me, it begins at a strategic point. Right. Of I'm using this to create pressure on the people who are there on an opening weekend. And so it's always, open houses are non-negotiable. And I've never had anyone push back when we walk through the process. Because sure, some people are hesitant of strangers walking through their house. And we help them understand how we mitigate the risk of that. Because we do. Like we have an obligation towards that. But then when we explain the strategy behind why it's so valuable, then it's like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Of course we would do that on our opening Sunday. And of course we would do that 2 weeks later. No duh. And so, yeah, we always do one. When I list a house, we always do one the opening weekend. And then we will always do one 2 weeks later.
Okay. What if it goes under contract, which means it hasn't sold yet, but it's under contract, which it could go back on the market?
Yep.
So
always still do it.
You still do it. Okay.
The amount of people who are at the early beginning of a process will see pending on Zillow and have no idea what that means. Correct. No idea. What is pending? I can't tell you how many times people ask me that. And those people will still show up to an open house. Always. And then I'll tell my sellers, listen, and it's honest, we're chasing after backup offers here. Because if something happens, it doesn't serve any of us well for us to have to restart this whole thing. So let's have someone right in the kitty we've already negotiated out and we're ready to roll if something happens. And they're in for that. They're willing to be inconvenienced for 3 hours and go to Chili's and hang out, go to the mall. Like they're willing to do that.
And I'm actually hearing, I taught a class just recently, and several of the folks in the class are having, I'm always like, what's the issue of the day is kind of my little opening. And they said, oh my gosh, so many of our homes are going back on the market. And so when he just said that great point of, hey, I'm trying to secure backup offers. And if that happens, great. It could be backup clients. It could be backup offers, whatever. But that's a really valid point. A lot of people are having to sell homes 1, 2, and 3 times.
Sure. Well, because the reality is you have agents like myself. If I walk a client through and I'm getting a vibe like they like this house, but they're a little bit of a longer processor, like I know that they're typically someone who makes slow decisions, I'm going to encourage them, listen, it's easier for us to make an offer now and back out during due diligence than it is for you to have regret in 10 days and be frustrated and stall out. Because I don't want to lose you because I'm investing time and money here. And so if you get stalled out, and this may take us 6 months, you may never move. And so it's my job to help you get what you're chasing after. And also I'm making an investment here. Like I'm investing in you. And so I will have them typically, if I feel like they're on the fence, but they're leaning, let's place an offer on this house because we can always back out during due diligence and no harm, no foul. And so you do. That's kind of like the strategy we're seeing on the buyer side right now.
It's become a big strategy.
It has.
Right
it has.
You almost have to.
You really do. I mean, seriously. I can't tell you how many buyers I've had who were slower processors. And, the first house we saw, we loved, but we needed to sleep on it. And we needed to call in our great Aunt Susie to come see it. And, man, the house is gone tomorrow. And it's not you who got it. And there is such a discouragement that goes with that.
I know.
And then you got to jolt them back into reality and like, okay, we still got to get back on the grind.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the stress you associated with not only selling, but the buying process. People on the front end think it's HGTV house hunters. I mean, it's a grind. It's an emotional grind. And so my job is to help shorten that as much as possible. And part of that is, again, helping lead them to a decision they would make anyways. There's a gentleman who I respect a lot. He calls it the quarter test. That 90% of the time, if I flip a quarter up in the air and tell you have to make a decision before that hits the ground, you will make the same decision that you would make if I gave you a week to make the decision. And that's what I tell my clients. Like, what's your gut right now? Just what's your gut? Well, I like the house. Well, then we need to move on that. Because then now you have a window. You have a window, and if something crazy happens, you have bad burritos and a bad dream, that you can't live here, then we can back out. But my gut says, I'm watching you and I have a lot of experience in this. I think you love this house.
Well, and that's a point that I know my broker had told me a long time ago, Pat Finnick. And he said, our job is to help people make the decision they already want to make. 100%. And they're looking to us for reassurance that they're making the right decision that they already want to make.
We are supposed to be Yoda. It's Luke's fight to fight, but my job is to be Yoda, to help mold you and shape you and to help you see things that you need to see. Not that you don't want to see. I'm not selling you. I'm just helping you to see the things that you want to see and that you have desired to see.
Exactly. So, well, this has been very, very enlightening and helpful. Good. And I just can't wait for everybody to see this. I can't wait to get the feedback and comments and questions. Again, this is part of who he is and what he's doing. And you can see the passion level and the strategic process that he goes through and how it's really paying off. So I hope you'll really embrace and feel inspired to take action and get in front of people. There's just no better win for someone helping someone buy or sell a house than to be in front of them. So I really appreciate you being able to connect with me. Thank you so much, Mark.
You're so welcome.
And I can't wait to hear more about all the successes. And who knows what I'm going to be interviewing them about next year. Who knows what the next phase will
It's coming from your coaching, so it's just us, me speaking back to you.
So thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. I hope to connect with you all soon.
Blessings to you.
Bye.